Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Let's party like it's 1999 all over again. "2020 is over." In some parts of the planet, it's already tomorrow, meaning the new year has already begun. We can breathe a giant collective sigh of relief that no truly apocalyptic extinction level event happened during 2020, because it is officially, categorically, calendarically speaking, like at 99.999% over now. It's technically and literally 2021 for some people on some parts of the world today. Right now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check, make sure I'm not just like talking out of my mouth. Shout out to everybody out there on that side of the planet. Like, I know some folks personally out in South Korea. In South Korea right now, it's Friday, January 1st, 1:24 a.m. Which is, kind of mindfuck, because I only just woke up a couple hours ago and it's 9:25 a.m. where I'm at. So I still gotta sit through the whole day. Hello and namaste, friends, audience, global internet fam. It is I, your eccentric yet humble internet radio talk show opinion host. Wait, that was out of order. Opinion should have gone before talk show. No, in between talk show and, I don't know. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, it is I, your ever eccentric and slightly discombobulated podcast, opinion talk show, radio style host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, sending you my love and light and energy and support, and all those delightful, groovy, sparkly, dazzly, spiritual, hippy-dippy, new age things at you through the airwaves, with my mind and my heart and my 15 chakras. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm in a funky party mood. I'm not, for the record, I am not some sort of partier. Never really have been, although I know how to party. I'm a gregarious, outgoing introvert that, like, 75% of the time prefers to be able to sort of like close the door on most of the world and selectively engage, right? With individuals or with groups of people, etc. That's the, but I'm simultaneously very capable of, put me in the middle of a big, huge, crowded room, an arena, and I'll handle. Like, I'm not gonna lock up in front of an audience, because I've, studied theater and I have performed in front of pretty decent sized houses, on various occasions and in different places. And although I can't claim to have made it, quote unquote, ever as a performer, I certainly got a taste, a pretty serious training in all those kinds of things. And I know myself, like I'm capable. And I find myself in the weirdest, all that to say, I'm in the weirdest of headspaces this year. 2020 has been a lot of things, and I have a whole special note that I want to read words that were inspired to flow out from me when a couple of different conversations I was having vis-a-vis, private messaging channels with different individuals kind of converged on the same set of subjects, and my brain found one big thing I wanted to share at all those different people. And then I was like, oh, that's like, I kind of want to say that out loud at the world. But save that for later. 2020 has been a lot of things, I was saying, right? But the one thing that has been most weird for me is not enjoying the small select set of weird, quirky things that are sort of, little traditions in my year-to-year life cycle. And New Year's is a big one. It's a gut punch. And I don't want to go off on that, but I usually celebrate with a particular group of people, at a party. There's a party that I love to go to, and it's not about the party. It's just like, I miss that. I miss looking forward to doing and revisiting a ritual. That's the issue I want to hit on. And I realize that, of course, if I take my own nonsense seriously, the challenge is to drill deep and look within and find something as meaningful, as entertaining, as powerful, or whatever, of a completely different kind, right? Not dancing till dawn, necessarily. I doubt that I will stay up till dawn, but I will probably, like I did today, wake up before dawn, which I've been doing without an alarm clock for reasons I can't explain to you. But here we are. Despite having woken up before dawn, it took me this long to get ready for various reasons, and it is now 8:30 a.m., Thursday, December 31st, the year of our Lord 2020, the final day. Thank God and good riddance to bad mojo. This shit is over. Let us all unite around this one thing today. Whether you're already celebrating and you're already getting ready to go to bed and crash out, or stay up till dawn, or whatever you do on your New Year's, or you're listening this even further in the future, tomorrow or the next day after recovering from New Year's. But, we have this bubble of time, this celebration. I like to give it 48 hours in either direction in terms of, like, my lackadaisical kind of blasé, very sort of undisciplined approach to personal ritual, spiritual practice. I don't want to call it magic, because that turns a lot of certain people off. But, if Jesus wasn't performing magic, I don't know what the fuck magic is, right? And I am one of those people that understands magic must fall into the Rubicon of, being also qualifying as technology so far advanced that we don't understand it. And I'm one of those weirdos that comprehends that technology, while typically applied to, robots and televisions and microwave ovens and stuff, technically can apply to living organisms if we're consciously engaged in the evolutionary process and we think of ourselves as systems of living mechanisms, right? But I digress. So many spirally directions we could go. It's 360 degrees of potential rabbit holery. But if I may, there was like a theme, right? Like 2020 is over. And I wanted to really express, where'd it go? I had this thought, this sentiment, this meme. I almost made it that's not it. Go back. Images, there you are. If I may be so bold as to, with the deepest sincerity and most genuine of humility, invite everyone and anyone, listening or not. May this spread like wildfire, both along the word of mouth, channels and the spiritual, deeper, intuition channels of the human networks that are multifaceted. We have anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. Here's my thought. Here's my wish right now, as we all, in one way or another, brace ourselves to celebrate and or endure the tedium of the last day of 2020. Let us face the new year with healing and transformation in our hearts. If you're a hardcore listener who's been around for a while, you may remember I posted this either last year or the year before. I don't remember when I posted this. It wasn't last year. I don't know. But it's not new. And I obviously have wished for this on a New Year's before. And I'm doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, and inviting you, friends, to join me in doing so. Not me, to join each other, to join us as a collective in this community. The Almost Daily Zencast community, right? Audience and host. Let's build a movement. Let's join the other movements, because there's plenty of people out there advocating for healing. I'm not trying to sound like I'm some groundbreaking revolutionary. I am suggesting that we need to sort of set down all the different things, even in the spiritual bucket. But there's a lot of societal, mental, label-y things that keep us from really, really transcendentally uniting as a meta community, as a species even. So, if celebration and ritual and prayer and meditation and all of those things, if they really truly mean anything, which many would argue they do not, and that's their free speech right to be able to do. It's funny though, they often have very little to say beyond denial, right? Like, that's one of the critical flaws of all denial culture driven arguments, or just denial culture at large, is that ultimately people who are in perpetuating the denialism or enabling denialistic thinking, they kind of run out of like really well thought out rationales for themselves, because they often don't. They're just like caught up in it, right? Just like people get to the point where they knee-jerk accuse everything and anyone they disagree with as being a hoax or a bot or a devil worshiper or a member of the of the child-eating Illuminati elite, whatever. People get so caught up in that thinking that they'll start accusing whoever. The Girl Scout trying to sell them Girl Scout cookies, right? Like, I've been accused of that. And I can assure you folks, I've never been to any of those meetings, and I've never consumed, human flesh ever. I'm not a vampire. I'm not a lizard person. Ha! Breaking news. I was commuting back and forth this morning, right? Because my entire life now resides within the confines of my house, mostly, except for going to the grocery store. I was commuting back and forth between the tea kettle and the iPod device, sort of getting ready to set up, and my notes and setting up my space. And the news was on, and this is what happens, right? Like, I don't pretend to report the news. I am a person who sometimes has the news on TV, and I have opinions about what the fuck is on there. That doesn't mean I blind faith believe the fucking media industry, right? I don't blind faith believe anything, folks. So it's adorable to me when people come at me with that accusation. Oh, you're just blind faith, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. But you're just apparently blind faith parroting that accusation at me, because I assure you I'm not. I'm a weirdo and an eccentric and, I'm a person willing to say on my own podcast that I might as well be actually a cybernetic, cloned artificial life form from another dimension that might as well be almost your future. Because I feel that alienated in the actual world I find myself in, right? And all the things that I've spent my entire lifetime contemplating and thinking about seriously and trying to come to meaningful conclusions that might actually be helpful, not for my own personal profit, but for the empowerment of the world and the entire human species, not just one select subvariant or subgroup that I like best, are treated as if I were some foreign, creepy, inexplicable, stranger from beyond, and that I might as well just get, strung up and run out of town for being so weird and crazy as to suggest that instead of arguing about any political ideology, which I get, I love watching people argue about political ideology the way I like watching sports ball. I try very hard not to give sports ball my money. No offense to everybody who works really hard and busts their ass in the sports ball industry. I don't disrespect the people. I just don't care about the product. It's my effing freedom, right? If 2020 has hammered anything home that really should be talked about openly, discussed, and sort of unpacked and healed, is that most of the people, regardless of their originating paradigms, right, no matter where on the political org chart or square block distribution chart they fall on, a lot of the people, and I don't say this with anger, and I'm not saying this to tell them what to do. I'm just saying, hello, have you questioned this for your own self, for your own selves, as individuals, as groups? Most of the people that rail and rant about freedom seem to not comprehend that bundled into their own outrage is a demand to deny other people's freedom by telling them that what they're doing is wrong and they shouldn't be doing it. It's really insane. It's actually not that surprising. Freedom itself has been made a central core wedge issue. No one really has the same model of freedom in their minds as everyone else. Therefore, we argue and fight about the things that we associate with my freedom to be, right? I'm free to be, insert your favorite variables here. But the way we have a toxic understanding of freedom, I think. I speculate. I'm not trying to take anybody's freedoms away, yo. Here's my example, and don't get fucking mad at me. Take a deep breath. I'm not attacking anybody, etc., right? I'm trying to remind anybody listening and anybody in the future who joins the bandwagon and becomes part of the show and is curiously listening to this episode however long ago in the future from now, that freedom is a beautiful thing, but it isn't some absolute, hardcore, uncorruptible thing, right? You have to remember that someone may want to have the freedom to do horrible, evil things. And that if we really, truly want to collectively enjoy the fruits of a real kind of freedom that is also not riddled with chaos and axe murderers doing as they please and despots taking over whatever, because isn't that them expressing their own freedom? An axe murderer is happy when they axe murder people, right? And I'm not I'm opposed to axe murdering. I don't think it's right. No one should be doing it. Just to make that clear. I'm not demanding my freedom to be an axe murderer. I'm postulating that if we really think about it, someone who, for whatever reasons, comes to the conclusion, insanely as it may be, that they are truly made happy by murdering people with axes and or chainsaws, as in that one blockbuster movie, American Psycho, right? That they needed to do that. And doesn't every kind of political argument for my freedoms, doesn't they apply there? Or somehow, fragilely, because it's against the law, which is something that the My Freedoms crowd talks about, how that's irrelevant, right? That the laws can be wrong. But axe murdering and butchering people is against the law, and very well should be, right? But we're going to get to a place with this toxicity freedom mentality, just like there's a toxic positivity mentality and a toxic, there's toxic everything. There's toxic yoga, there's toxic spirituality, there's toxic freedom. And we have to acknowledge that. We can't just keep turning a blind eye to it and keep letting those who are caught up in the toxicity freedom, gestalt, that whole milieu. We can't let people just get caught up in that and go, but freedom. Or can we? I don't know. It becomes a pretty interesting, bizarre catch-22 question, doesn't it? And a delightful place to put a pin in it and begin some cleansing of the imagine space palette by once again welcoming DJ Zed to entertain us with, here it is, Exothermic Trance, an Ice House 101 remix live track by DJ Zed. I am so glad that this bizarro fucking topsy-turvy chaos clown year 2020 is literally heartbeats away from being over. And that by ending, 2020 literally brings us to 20 days until Trumptopia version 1.0 gently comes to an end and waffles away like a flan in a cupboard, to badly misquote Eddie Izzard from Dressed to Kill, I believe. Brilliant stand-up comedy. From like a golden era of stand-up comedy just before everything really started to go to shit. In terms of, realizing that we are slowly living through the end of the world, as it were. The closest thing to the end of the world that we're ever really going to get to, besides the actual literal destroying of our planet to the point where we can't survive on it anymore. And there may be some hope to escape away to Mars with SpaceX and that guy. And man, do I wish that dude is some dude I had met back in college smoking weed, because I wouldn't have, because I didn't go to that college, whatever college he went to, and I wasn't smoking weed in college, except for that one time. And I didn't really come back to weed for a decade or so, but that's neither here nor there. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. It's been a roller coaster of a year, and if you become a regular listener of the show, I want to say namaste, thank you, much love and gratitude, and I hope that you stick with us. Stay with me. In theory, the show is about to get a lot better, because I don't know, some clarity has come to my mind about how to organize and execute the making of the show. I'm going to retain this sort of live element. Like the last couple episodes, from Christmas to today, I didn't plan anything beyond sitting there struggling to come up with a cover and a blurb for the thing. Other than that, I jumped into the show not really knowing what I was going to do. And either you think that was like fun and entertaining and interesting and worth listening to, or you're like, stop what you're doing, this sucks and it should never be done. And you know what? The haters are always going to hate. So if you're really just a hater telling me to stop because you're a hater and you tell everybody to stop, thanks, but I'm not interested in that opinion. If you're a like-minded person who just can't wrap your brain around what I'm doing, I'm down to hear authentic, real, meaningful, developmental critique. And I've been getting some, more than say in the early years, which is much appreciated. So I welcome that. And if you appreciate what I'm doing and or, just enjoy it for what it is, such deep gratitude for you. And please, please, please keep coming back. Keep listening. And by all means, come on out to either the social media pages for the show. You can find the show's official Facebook page on facebook.com/The Almost Daily Zencast. Or if you just go to the little search thingy and type in The Almost Daily Zencast, you should be able to find it. And, The Almost Daily Zencast does not have a Twitter account, but the host, me, myself, and I, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, does. You can find that at Mr. Zeppo. And although technically I'm taking a break from social media, I'm trying to. I said I was going to unplug from social media last night, and then I posted some things after posting that. And then I woke up this morning and kind of absentmindedly ended up on Facebook checking things, and I kind of came to the realization, I said I was going to unplug, and I don't really remember when I opened the app, but here I am, standing at my desk, scrolling through Facebook. But Facebook, you should be able to find me just by typing in Mr. Zeppo. There is a Facebook page for the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo, and there is also a Facebook page for the Almost Daily Zencast. You don't have to support both. Come on out to the show's page, because that's an easy way for the community that is the audience to start engaging in extended Facebook public discourse about all the wild, wacky subjects that we land on. Speaking of wild, wacky subjects that we land on, something I wanted to address. In recent days, I've seen a lot of nonsensical, sort of zealot, blind faith posts about how dare the left and how ungrateful are the left and the anti-Trumpers for not realizing how hard Trump was fighting for the $2,000 checks. Nonsense! Malarkey! A, he's been golfing this entire effing time. B, as I've said before on the show, not just recently, but also throughout the last 9 months, where was that strong man position 9 months ago when we issued the first bundle of support packages, and the conversation in the public discourse, and I mean, when I say public discourse, I mean the real meaningful statements made by our representatives and not the political malarkey, right? Because it's always been a both. It's always a mix of that. But when we really look at the history of the public discourse, the Trump administration was pushing negotiation tactics of all kinds to ensure that the next round of assistance, whenever it came around, and they pushed and pulled and hemmed and hawed and delayed for 9 effing months on the directive of Trump. Like, that's why is the Trump base applauding him now for throwing a monkey wrench in the thing, causing a week-long delay in the original and about to expire, and also ensuring that the transition would be riddled with hiccups and problems. This monkey wrench of I demand $2,000, blah 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 blah, and these other things. That wasn't a John F. Kennedy maneuver. That was a fucking, like, you're a scam artist and you know how to try and give a talking point to your blind faith crowd while also ensuring that nothing really gets done and the status quo is barely met. Let's remember, 9 months ago, the Trump administration and the entire group of people that represented Donald Trump were negotiating, pushing the Democrats' original, not quite 2,000, I think their original number was 1,200 or 1,500 or whatever it was, somewhere in the, similar to the very first check that was issued. They just wanted to repeat the process, right? And the Trump administration pushed them down, stripped it down, added poison pills, and forced that number down to 600 so that he can throw a tantrum about it being 2,000 on the very last weekend of everything when it's mostly done. And instead of being a jerk and pausing and gumming up the works, a president shoulda, coulda, woulda signed this and then negotiated for a follow-up bill. Well, that's the intelligent political tactical maneuver. What he did was nonsense. And only his most blind faith, I believe whatever Trump says and everyone else is a robot or a lizard person or a vampire or a baby eater or a child molester or all of them combined are believing this nonsense that he's peddling. He played golf and threw a monkey wrench that the aid distribution process didn't need and that the people who want aid didn't deserve. Yes, technically anybody who says that there should have been $2,000 payments is right. I've been saying that since day one. That if they're going to demand us to be staying at home, they should be paying us an appropriate compensation for staying at home because time is motherfucking money. Or is it not? Free market world. Time is money. According to the laws of the free market that we fucking suck cock about and worship and pretend is some sort of brilliant, divinely inspired solution machine for all the problems of the world, which it categorically is not, in my humble opinion. The free market will not solve the problems that the free market has created. Politics will not solve the problems that politics has created. Golf will not solve any of the problems that Trump has made worse. When he said, I alone can fix it, he was bullshitting. He hasn't fixed anything. He's just blown things up and then pretended to patch them back together in ways that just makes things worse and has fixed mostly nothing. Yes, I must acknowledge that some of the things he's done, a very, very small number, are things that I can't disagree with and that I therefore must categorically support and give credit to. And I've done that, right? Do I remember that list off the top of my head? Of course not. It's 8:57 a.m. on New Year's Eve day, the day of New Year's Eve, and I'm already celebrating. right? I'm already doing my magical, mystical cannabis thing. So that list is not immediately at the front of my mind, nor do I have it handily written down right here. But I will acknowledge it exists. You can ridicule me for not being able to spew it right now, but that's meaningless, right? Like, I acknowledge Trump has done some things that I can't disagree with and therefore must support and that I think are great. The wall is not one of them. Operation Warp Speed is not one of them. Neither is most of, let's say, if there is a list of things that Trump has achieved that I cannot disagree with and therefore must support and give him credit for, that represents about 0.5% of what he's done. And everything else has been redonkulous political theater at best. And at worst, pretty borderline criminal, sort of severely corrupt type scammy art behavior that no one should be falling for and be wrapped up in applauding about. That everyone should be going, wait till the New York Southern District catches up with him, right? Because he may pardon himself. He may already pardon Watch 2020 has turned out to be such an anticlimactic moment. The list of pardons that he's busted out have all been like gross, disgusting people. No cases of like, oh, he was sort of unjustly accused, or he's innocent but he's been incarcerated for so long. Nothing like that. Just a bunch of weirdos and war criminals and fraudsters, like straight up fraudsters, people that categorically shoulda, woulda, coulda been drained from the swamp. He pardoned. And next, his family, if he hasn't already done so. And ultimately, maybe himself, maybe secretly, which he is technically allowed to do, which is a really weird thing to be technically allowed to do. Right? At any rate, spiraling out of control. And all I really wanted to do was say Happy New Year's Eve Day to you, dear listeners. Thank you. If you've only just joined us recently in the back half of 2021, there's a lot of content out on my stream, on my RSS feed, or my Sprecher account stream wall, whatever you want to call it. The show, as we will refer to all of this content, has gone through some weird changes over the years. And as this time of year is usually a time to be retrospective, I usually kind of love-hate those things. I enjoy the ones that show me stuff that I may have missed out on that was actually interesting. But I sort of loathe and can't stand those retrospectives that are about like the tedious, banal, who cares stuff that everyone seems to like more than the important, critical, impactful stuff. But what can you do? What can you do? The world's a topsy-turvy place, and free will is a cut both ways, double-edged sword of like, it'll slice you in half and destroy you if you do it wrong, kind of a thing. Oh man, that reminds me. I thought of something that was a cut both ways, double-edged sword, that if you come at it the wrong way, it will slice you in half. And it was really cool, and I'm only sort of half remembering. I'm only remembering the part about it slicing you in half, and I can't remember what the thing was that caused all that. Put a pin in that. I'll see if I remember it. Because I wanted to talk about it, and I meant to write it down, and then a bunch of other things happened that like prevented me from ever getting that note jotted. At any rate, here's some real talk, friends. I really, really hope that no matter what's gone down in your personal life, in your family life, in your local neighborhood hood life, in your jurisdictional state and or county and or town life, in your national life, and in your global context life, because we all live those different lives. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we kind of all live those different levels of tension with how we relate to and commune with the various things that make up the world around us, the various groups of people, which are not things, right? Things is a word that we use so many different ways, it's kind of unfair. I didn't mean to objectify people. I think you get where I'm going. I hope that no matter what's been going on at all of those levels and individually and collectively, that you find yourself today here as you're listening to this episode, whether it is currently today, December 31st, or, in the not too distant future, that you find yourself in a position to really embrace newness, to embrace healthy, positive change, growth, evolution at a personal level, and that you're willing to go and invest in it. Go cultivate the farmland of your inner life. Go cultivate your soul. There's not enough of that. And even those of us who sort of stab at it and try at it, we need to triple down, right? I don't pretend to be a guru. I'm not enlightened, right? I'm saying I think there's a there, and I'm urgently pointing at the clues and pieces of the puzzle that I've encountered in my life and in my observations and in my experience. And I think that we should all rally to really up our game in how we reinvestigate it. It's awesome that there's massive departments of quantum physics and there's scientists investigating that stuff. Of course, the conspiracy theorists will poo-poo that for all the different reasons because, NASA's a lie and it's all CGI. It's funny how they all rhyme, right? Little things always rhyme and stuff. Not always, but a lot of them do. Just like in commercials, just like in advertising. I don't know about you, but I've known for a really long time that advertising is, even for some of the legitimate stuff, even the shit that we like, is built on some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the principles of neurolinguistic programming and propaganda and psychological manipulation. Duh. And that as a responsible citizen of the world, in our postmodern context, it's really kind of burdened onto us as individuals. So it's your problem if you can't defend yourself against that kind of content. And that's advertising, right? Which is legit. It's supposed to be on the up and up. It's a business we all participate in. You've got to listen to advertisers to listen to my show. And I did that knowingly because I want to be able to build an increasing income in order to have the tools to achieve greater goals in this money-driven society. It's a catch-22. I personally, in real life, endorse commercial things, which are just riddled with advertising. My point is, we need to, it is our burden of responsibility. I think we need to step up into that a little more, right? Let's look at forget the thing about advertisers and advertising. I don't mean to insult people who work in the advertising market. I'd love to be a voiceover actor, and I would take commercial work. I can live with that duality, because duality and non-duality are not mutually exclusive. Up and down do not annihilate each other. They co-create one another. You can't have one without the other, right? So, I don't know. I feel like I'm spiraling out of control, but also making perfect sense. Whatever's going on in your context, I was saying something important. I was saying something for you, dear listener. Whatever's going on in your context on all those levels, I hope you find yourself today, now, as we transition from 2020 to 2021, and in, the surrounding days, in the coming days and weeks, that you find yourself willing and capable and motivated, dare I even say inspired, to reinvestigate, re-explore whatever spiritual path, spiritual practice you find yourself on. Whether you've been overtly, consciously, programmatically, with great discipline, even at a professional level, executing a spiritual practice, or you've just been kind of like many of us, fumbling and bumbling and testing and probing and sampling, at the edges of various different modalities or whatever. Because ultimately, I am of the opinion, insert disclaimer about how I form my opinion here, that when we zoom back far enough and understand intuitively enough that the deepest of the magic, the truest of the spiritual practices, the most meaningful of the things that we could be doing aren't necessarily something we're going to find in a book that we bought, right? You're not necessarily going to get it from me in this podcast. But in the act of individually and collectively reinvestigating, reevaluating, rediscovering all the things that we point to in the bucket of the big, broad umbrella envelope of spiritual practice, including the gems that we find buried amongst the corruption and the misleading chaos in organized religion. Because, well, put a pin in that. I've expressed my opinion on organized religion enough. So if you've already heard it, you're tired of it. And if you've never heard it, it gives you motivation to go listen to other episodes. Because I think that, to get to my point, I think that if we do that on our own, respecting that each of us is on our own little spiritual practice, a private path, and acknowledging, and this is important, folks, dear friends, I hope you get it, I've said it often enough, acknowledging that all the scary things that we point to with ego and Satan and those kinds of labels, ego and the darkness and the dark side or the bad side or whatever you want to call it, it knows, they know, it is part of us. It is not some external alien, demonic, horrible thing that's here to annihilate us. It is an integral part of the universe itself. It knows the spiritual path as well as we do. It needs healing, and because of the trauma it is suffering, it's playing an angry, bitter game of distracting us because it is addicted to the material fruits of clinging to those spiritual traumas and allowing the implicated and implied human behaviors perpetuate here on Earth. And that those elements, we are not supposed to destroy and annihilate. We are supposed to heal. And the most effective way to do that is to realize that we, as individuals, these body avatars that we inhabit, are, like all things in the universe, a fractal representation of the whole sum of the largest parts, as well as, we are a macrocosm and a microcosm of the fractal et al., of divinity being everything in the material realm so that life can exist, because the divinity is itself divvying itself up in order to become the embodiment that we experience. And that if we transition from confrontational modalities, confrontational ideologies, confrontational approaches, confrontational attitudes, and we reach deep down and really try to manifest unifying, transformative, species-wide, third eye opening, metaphysical, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, trauma healing, that we will solve more problems and advance and progress as a species infinitely further than we will by continuing to bash each other's faces into this treadmill meat grinder of nonsense that we've built and have become, let's admit it, kind of addicted to. That's my wish. That's my wish every New Year's Eve, folks. Let's transcend ourselves. Let's transcend a little bit more, because it is baby steps, folks. I'm not talking about... I don't think that 2021 is the year that we suddenly become avatars of light. I do think that we are ultimately going to become avatars of light. I think that ego is so entrenched. The dark forces that are often unnecessarily overly vilified and objectified and or otherified and demonified, because they are integral to us. They are as integral to the manifestation of the universe as the light is. It's just playing that role over there of entropy and chaos and destruction, because those things are to a certain degree necessary. But there's a sort of habituated overindulgence, i.e. addiction, to the mundane and the banal and the profiteering and the tragedies that can generate wealth here, to speak in really broad strokes, in the material realm, when we force ourselves to limit ourselves, to only allow ourselves to perceive and understand and acknowledge the material realm, right? I think that's at the core of the agenda, as it were. If you're going to talk about evil, nefarious agendas, what doesn't make sense is all this fear-mongering about how they're going to kill us all. Why aren't I dead? Why aren't you dead? Why isn't everybody dead? Back in the 90s and the late 80s, it was all going to be over by 1994, 95, 96, 97, 98, 2000 for sure. Here we are, still peddling. I'm not denying, and I keep getting accused of this, I'm not denying the existence of a conspiracy system of oppression. What I'm saying is the conspiracy theory content is as flawed as the dogmatic, supposedly quote-unquote law of God content that is about butchering each other and whatever, all the really troublesome stuff that comes out of organized religion. Why? I don't know. There's trends there, folks. And I don't think it's too far of a stretch to suggest that if we stop arguing, take a step back, unite around our common humanity, the fact that we are all here, cognizant, apparently alive, breathing, eating, defecating, feeling emotions, good and bad, and suffering the baseline stress and low-grade trauma of not wanting to die, is enough to unite and transformatively evolve together and uplift ourselves and one another into a better, holistically speaking, place, quote unquote, a better way of doing things without having to get all fucking alarmistly angry and freaked out and ready to butcher each other about things that don't even make sense butchering each other over. But I'm that crazy guy that's like, oh, cute meme, because I love this, and they're not wrong. It's also being used in a way that's misleading. But, the meme that's been ever so popular this year, those who are, peddle the fear also sell the cure or the vaccine, right? Yeah, that's not wrong. That's not a lie. But those who repost that meme are also diving off a deep end that isn't the whole truth, and are using that and other things that are partially true and or nuggets of truth in and of themselves to come to conclusions that are insane. I'm sorry, that I just can't buy into, that I personally can't buy into. And that's not a negative, hateful judgment. That's a, let's question that. Why is that happening? Why are things like that leading people to extremes? Right? Apparently, now I don't know if this is a double reverse negative, make them look bad kind of psyop, or if it's just a regular result of the regular psyop. But it's being reported, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, it's being reported that the Christmas Day car bomber or RV truck bomber, car bomber has alliteration, but technically it was an RV, a recreation vehicle. That guy, apparently it's come about, those investigating his because we all do want to know what his motives were. Apparently he had some belief in one of the multiple, because there's more than just one conspiracy theory about lizard people, but he had expressed some beliefs in one of the various lizard people conspiracy theories. And that somehow that may be part of his motivation that led him to do this thing that he did. I don't know. Is that a smear campaign to disparage and distract us from whatever his real motivations are? Or is that really just what happened because there's a cacophony of conspiracy theories that are, if you take them a little seriously, are pretty alarming. And they're eloquently constructed with just enough truthy things to seduce people that either want to be seduced, that are easily seduced, or that are just sort of not aware that it's really worth quadruple checkling. That's not a technical term. That it's really, really, really worth doing one's own due diligence whenever possible. And if you're not going to do your due diligence, it's best not to attribute your blind faith belief to just any old statement, right? Like, I overtly and consciously choose to disclaimer as often as possible. Please don't ever take me at blind faith level, right? I'm sharing with you my opinion. And I kind of I'm surprised that I don't get a lot more disagreement mail. And I'm really grateful that I don't get a lot of hate mail. Although I do get a little bit occasionally. Get a lot of people saying that I must be a shield for the system. If I'm a shield for the system, they've got me so double blind, hypnotized that I don't realize. Because consciously, I will stand toe to toe with anybody and look them in the eye and be like, no, I'm not a shield for the fucking system. I'm just a person trying to get by, sharing my opinion because opinion talk show radio hosts make pretty decent money. Why can't I be one? If insert your favorite talk show opinion host couldn't be a famous talk show opinion host, whoever they are, from whatever political end of the spectrum they might be, why can't I? I can. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I humbly thank you for tuning in on this. Thank God it's over. 2020 New Year's Eve spectacular. I may be done with this for now, but I may be filled with the motivation of Mother Gaia and the goddess's muses in a hot minute and come right back. But for now, I know I want to finish. I want to make myself some more hot tea and rest my voice for a minute, and say to you folks, instead of arguing about conspiracy theories, here's my final push. If there's one thing I think that you should be, after 1 year's worth of my podcast, never mind that it's been around for 4 years, a little bit more now, like 4.5 years almost. If there's one thing you should walk away with, giving it a shot, contemplating deeply, not blind faithedly, but with a bit of okay, I'm going to question it and probe it and ask my questions. And, it's this. I humbly invite you to investigate why we shouldn't, why aren't we uniting, setting down our differences, realizing that it's been two wings, one bird the whole time. Red team versus blue team is an echo chamber of echo chambers. Why can't we unite to manifest something healthier than that? Not fight about which side is the one that's tyrannical and which one is righteous. Not argue about which political puppet is a saint and which is a treasonous, betrayer. Not because that's all treadmill distractionary nonsense, right? I know that it's got some people worked up, but I think that if we zoom back and step out of our ideological boxes and unite around the tangible need to survive, to thrive, and the reality that we really, despite whatever healers and healing have occurred in the past, we've never really given it a species-wide, serious, intellectually honest, postmodern, uncorrupt scientific investigation. Like, you know how they used to say, give it the old college try? We haven't done that with metaphysical, mystical, transcendent spirituality. We've had like a few periods of trendy explosion and a lot of people who've done their own explorations and attempts, and great. And many of them have actually done what I'm describing. But I mean collectively. So that there's a equivalent to NASA. And I don't mean, that's presuming that NASA isn't corrupt and just peddling CGI fakes the entire time. And, and that the moon landing was realer than the conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? Like, why don't we have a global, legit, I know that if we did, there would be conspiracy theories about it and arguments about how it's fake and peddling a bunch of nonsense. Because that kind of rationale is programmatically designed to get people to knee-jerkedly blind faith accuse anything and everyone and any point of view, perspective, or movement or trending thing that they are told to disagree with by their own chosen programming as some sort of hoax, right? That's the problem with hoax culture thinking, is that like if you pick one thing out of the cacophony of crazy things and then decide that everything else is a hoax, then you won't ever understand that maybe all the crazy things that you picked from were hoaxes too. Anyways, I've been rambling long enough, and like I said, I need to take a break for my vocal cords' sake and your earballs' sake. And so I say with much gratitude, peace, love, and grooviness be with you and blossom in your heart. And now I hand it over to DJ Zed for the closing bit of electronic danceable music from his soon to maybe never drop fictional album End Times. The track entitled Thunderous Waves They Were, a Drum Step 101 remix live audio track. Namaste, motherfuckers. Stay tuned for more, either later today or presumably maybe tomorrow and definitely into the new year. "2020 is over." Let's really make sure. Let's do our best. Let's unite as global citizens of Mother Earth to make 2021 less crazy, cockamamie, bullshit, malarkey, nonsensical. Baby steps, yo. I'm not saying miracles here. I don't expect, the cartoon, blue-eyed, blonde, and, blonde-haired, white-skinned Jesus to come out of the sky. But I do hope that humanity itself will begin to see through deeper levels of the nonsense. Because even, like I've said before, some of the people talking about being woke aren't that woke, folks. We still have a lot of work to do. I'm not that woke. I know I'm not enlightened. And I've never claimed to be. I do think that enlightenment is the journey we are supposed to be on. Let's make 2021 not suck again. Let's make Trumptopia the United States of America again. And then let's brace ourselves and realize that the old normal wasn't very good normal. And let's make the world spiritually healed again.